Hey guys, so I'm back with another potential update on Top Thrill 2. Before I begin, please take in mind that nothing I'm saying is confirmed, so please take this with a grain of salt and not as the absolute truth. So as I'm sure you're all aware by now, Top Thrill 2 was shut down just a week after its official opening. And this is due to a part on the ride vehicles that require mechanical modifications. So in my last video, I guessed that Top Thrill 2 might be closed for at least a month, while the part in question was redesigned and re-engineered, then manufactured, and then installed on the ride where it would have been intensely tested. Well, now I'm hearing mumblings that Top Thrill 2 may actually reopen a lot sooner than we originally expected. The ride was even seen testing yesterday on Wednesday, May 15th. Now again, please take this with a grain of salt and not as the absolute truth, but supposedly Top Thrill 2 may reopen as soon as this weekend. Maybe as soon as tomorrow, Friday, May 17th. And will continue to run with the same part on its ride vehicles that was originally in question. Now that may sound alarming to you, but here's where I'll add my own speculation to hopefully make this make more sense. Now if this were the case, if Top Thrill 2 were to reopen with the same part in question, here's what you should keep in mind. From what I understand, each of Top Thrill 2's 3 trains have been cycled thousands of times since the ride started testing at the end of 2023. If I'm guessing correctly, the part in question on each train are original, and they have been cycled alongside the train on each of the thousands of laps. When the issue did arise, it wasn't a complete failure, but the parts were showing signs of premature wear. And I'm sure a big question has been, why did this happen as soon as the ride opened? And why wasn't this noticed sooner during the immense amount of testing that was done for Top Thrill 2? I think one way to say it is that the part did not last the number of load cycles that it should have. So let's say if it were supposed to be able to handle a force of, I don't know, 5,000 pounds in the vertical direction for a very high number of cycles, it could only actually handle that load for a much lower number of cycles, at which point the part starts to fatigue and show signs of wear. So it most likely doesn't have to do with riders entering the picture, and somewhere along the lines it's basically just a math problem gone a little wrong, where either the intensity or the way forces would act on that component weren't accurately predicted, or something with the design of the component and how it would handle the loads and the application of them went a little astray. The only way it makes sense that Top Thrill 2 will reopen with the same part in question is if Zamperla and Cedar Point replace this part after a certain number of cycles, and probably a number of cycles that is far lower than the number of cycles we saw before that started to lead to the potential issues. So what does this mean for you? It basically means you should have absolutely nothing to worry about when riding Top Thrill 2. Top Thrill 2 is going to have eyes all over it, and I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about park engineers, technicians, employees from Zamperla. Between operating days, Top Thrill 2's trains will be examined thoroughly, and the part that led to the ride's closure will be replaced very often. Now I don't know how many trains the ride will operate with. In one scenario, I'd imagine the ride will only operate 2 trains, while the 3rd train is taken off the track after a certain number of cycles for an in-depth evaluation. Or the park could continue to operate all 3 trains at once, and then perform an in-depth inspection of each train at the end of each operating day, when accounting for a 10-hour operating day, which would be from a 10 AM opening to an 8 PM close. And let's assume that Top Thrill 2 cycles about 39 trains an hour. That means that each train cycles the track 13 times each hour, and across a 10-hour operating day would cycle the track 130 times. And of course this number could be higher, say if the ride crew hits perfect interval every hour, and also to account for testing before the park opens, or operations past park closing to exhaust the line, or due to downtime or weather, the ride could cycle even less each day. Either way, we're still looking at a small fraction of the thousands of cycles that it took for that part to show signs of premature wear. Now, is it ideal to operate a coaster like this? Definitely not, but that won't affect us as the guests or consumers that are visiting Cedar Point to ride Top Thrill 2. That's either going to affect Cedar Point or Zamperla's wallet. In this case, I'm guessing Zamperla, as someone's got to float the bill for all of these part replacements. And let me tell you, the parts for coaster trains or coasters in general are not cheap. And I'm also assuming that if Top Thrill 2 does actually reopen using the same part in question, there was also a significant amount of investigation done to justify this method of reopening the ride, where I'm sure modeling was done to just show the wear on the parts after a certain number of cycles, where they could also replicate the scenario in computer programs. So personally, once Top Thrill 2 does reopen, I will not hesitate to go on it, and I really hope this means that the ride will be open in mid-June when I'm planning to go visit Cedar Point. So that's gonna do it for this potential update on Top Thrill 2. Again, please take take this all with a grain of salt and not as the absolute truth. Let's all see what happens to Top Thrill 2 and if it does reopen this weekend. If it does not open, I honestly won't be surprised. But if it does open, then... Alright, bye.